Aha. Hello, everyone, and good evening. Hello, at least Mickey on screen with us for the time being. I'm Richard McKeon, brand ambassador with Mackmyra, landlord, co-landlord, I should say, of the Mackmyra Inn. Joining me, as always, is fellow landlord / lounge lord when he's on his sofa, who knows at the end of his week, Mickey Plummer. Good evening, Mick.
Evening, Rich. How you doing, my friend?
Not too bad, actually. It's been a very busy week, as you well know, I think, for the both of us. So I think this is the most I've looked forward to one of these sessions and sitting down and
it's probably the most deserved. Probably the most deserved, Rich.
It probably is, yeah. I think, and we'll be milking that for the duration of the evening as well. For sure. That voice here and there. Joining us momentarily, we've had some minor technical gremlins getting in the way. Will be Andrea Dionori, and I very much hope that I've said it right because he's not here to correct me on his last name. I'm sure he will when he arrives. He is probably the most employed man we've ever had on the show, or even employed person. He's a lot of different roles. He's a person in high demand by employers everywhere. Andrea, so when he joins, we'll be talking. I'll let him introduce himself and talk about the various positions and roles that he has. But we'll be using him and his unique insights. You know, quite a broad variety of them. Talk about independent bottlers and distilleries, how important they are to each other. Here we go. We've got Andrea in. Hello, Andrea. We have you, I think.
No, I'm very sorry. That's the beauty of the streaming. Yeah, I'm having some troubles with Wi-Fi today, but I guess it's a first world problem nowadays with Zoom and streaming stuff.
I think so. I think our viewers are quite sympathetic to technical issues. We've had enough of our own, so yeah, I think they'll let you get away with it. But thank you very much for coming to join us and giving us some of your time. I was just explaining that I think you might be the most employed person we've ever had join us at the inn. Lots of different roles and positions you have, and some very interesting ones. So before I hand over to you and ask you to sort of introduce yourself a little bit, just to let everyone know what we will be talking about this evening with you here. I mentioned we'll be talking about independent bottlers, distilleries, their relationship, and how important they are to each other. We'll talk about the whiskey community, the geeks and the average consumers, and what the industry does to cater to both types of people and everyone that sort of fits in between. And Mick has got some more teasing to do with something that he's been working on as well. So I think we might be close to the 6:05 mark, Mick. I don't know if you want to get a drink in the glass.
There you go. Look, I've luck would have it, Rich. So that's our 6:05 bell. So that must mean it's time for me and Rich to get the round in. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, who's having what? What do you want, Andrea? What are you having this evening, sir?
I have a massive stash of samples which I need to go through and finish at some point because they're basically just accumulating. So
yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and have a Glenturret 27 years old 1987 from Philadelphia.
Straight out of the big guns. Yeah,
I know it's. Well, yeah, because the thing is, I do participate a lot to tastings, and especially from Frederick Midland, East Coast whiskey. It does really interesting stuff, and it does a lot of like really weird lineups, or like I wouldn't say weird, but like all the whiskeys are really well sourced. So I always literally buy every pack it puts up every month, and then they're always really interesting stuff. I generally don't get to try, so like I don't get much Adelphi around, I don't get much SMWS, so that's a lot of stuff I'm really keen on. So what you guys said?
Yeah, Mick, you usually start with something quite flamboyant.
So I thought I'd keep the theme. On Wednesday we did our Valentine's show, obviously where we named a cocktail after our boss. So all I did really, so he said, why don't you try a double B, which is our honey liqueur, with a single measure of rook. So all I did was I just took that recipe and then put it in a highball glass and topped it up with some soda water. So we're going to name this one the Shane Long.
He was a Reading player. He was a Reading player for some time. Actually, I met him a few times. I'm from Wokingham, just down the road, and I was a Royal for a while. I think Andrea will be back in a moment once he's got his head around your cocktail, probably, Mick. There, I did see.
Very shocked him.
I saw the length on it, and I thought instead of just doing, you know, one measure of each things, you turned it into several.
So two parts honey liqueur. In this case, for us, it's B. One part of a smoky whiskey. In this case, we've used Svenska Rök, and then just topped up with some soda water.
Yeah.
So when you put it into parts, you don't have to give out exact measurements. So that's fine.
Yeah, so you're within your rights there. I think sweet and smoky, we're a big fan of. I know the both of us. And,
yeah, but it's mellowed out of it. So obviously we did that on Wednesday. Went down really nice. Got some really good feedback in that from our viewers and that on Wednesday. But tonight I thought I'd just make it a bit more refreshing, a little less sweet by adding the soda water to make it a bit longer. So that's quite nice. I quite like that actually. And what you got in your glass tonight, Rich?
So I've got probably I've poured a very, very small amount of it because I'm trying to hold on to this bottle with dear life. But I said I'd let Andrea introduce, you know, himself and the roles that he has. But one of them, spoiler alert, is with Milroys, and I've got a bottle that we did with them, I think April last year, where Simone Jonan came over to Mackmyra, selected a few casks. 3 of them came back and were bottled, and the one that I'm drinking here is the PX cask. So it was 4 years in 200-litre ex-bourbon and transferred for, I think, 18 months into a PX 30-litre cask. And this was, at like, you know, just shy of 7 years old or whatever those are, if I'm doing the maths. This was my whiskey of 2020. And not because it's Mackmyra, just this was, I just love this stuff. But I only have one bottle, and I'm very, very close to the end of it now. So I've poured a little bit just because we've got a Milroys man in the house, and we'll see after that. And I was just
occasionally,
yeah, in and out. He's in and out.
He's obviously just popping in and out in that. You know
he's popped out to the car park to top up the meter or something, I think, and make sure he's got his parking display, paying display in the window. Well, Mick, while we're waiting for Andrea to come back, and sorry guys, everyone, he has had some issues just as we were trying to join. It all started going wrong.
Been a week for Rich.
He'll be back, but I think maybe Mick, let's fill the space by you teasing a little bit more, perhaps another clue or two about.
So I suppose we can give way to next week's guest, or not give way to, because obviously he's not here to come in. But next week's guest, Andrew Smith from Little Brown Dog Spirits. There he is with the Little Brown Dog, which actually inspired the name of his independent stroke small distillery. So him and his business partner and his friend own run Little Dog Brew. But you know, we'll talk about more of that next week. But there's a reason he's on next week as well. Obviously, been hinting along the way of an independent bottler and a Mackmyra release at some point. So that gentleman should be able to shine a bit more light on that particular subject. So that should be nice.
Yeah. Well, on that note, then, as we wait for Andrea to come back, and I'm looking forward. Here we go. He's back in. We've got you for a moment, Andrea.
I sympathise with him because we had a nightmare. I had a nightmare on Wednesday.
But there's nothing on them.
Have we got you? I thought we had then. I thought he was just maybe pausing for suspense.
We had a bit of audio.
We will get this sorted, guys. They always tend to work themselves out, so hang in with us. But I very much want to get Andrea's thoughts on this because he is just a wealth of information. I think you and I, Mick, you know, fancy ourselves as perhaps knowing a thing or two, although we are far from being experts compared to some of the guys that have been, you know, in the industry for 10, 20, 30 years, etc. But Andrea can't be too far off of our age, but knows an incredible amount. I'm in the London Whisky Club with him, and whenever he starts typing, you always think there's going to be some good information coming here, some really insightful technical stuff. And yeah, there's Andrea. So I think this may well be Andrea performing one of his roles, where he sits on the one of the panels for, I think, one of the international spirits competitions. We'll let him tell us which one or more they are. But while we are waiting for him to come back, Mick, you know, and as you were talking about independent bottlers with Little Brown Dog, you know, and being new guys on the scene and stuff, I said one thing that Andrea did want to talk about was independent bottlers and their relationship with distilleries. So if you have any thoughts about, you know, how important they might be to one another.
I suppose really, it's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? Because without a distillery, you're not going to have an independent bottler.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a good chance on the reverse side. My opinion on it really is, it's a really good chance to let the whiskey drinking public, the general public, however you want to phrase it, try something from that particular distillery that's not necessarily got that distillery's character. Because obviously everything that the distillery puts out, it's carefully managed, carefully put together to certain standards, to a certain flavour profile, etc. And obviously it's normally a mixture, most core ranges, etc., are a mixture of different casks, a bit of different aging, and they put it together to either achieve they put it together to achieve a certain flavour profile. And whether that be, a standard 12-year-old, a non-age statement or whatever, you're going to get, sort of like take our Svensk. It's put together through various different ages, and those ages of casks and the slightly different cask makeup will generally does change, especially from the not so much the cask profile, because obviously, that's all ex-bourbon really, and then into Swedish oak, but the age of those casks will change to try and to affect a consistent flavour profile between batches. So that's what you're going to generally get from a distillery, but what you're going to get from an independent bottler is going to be completely different, because normally it's single cask stuff you're going to get. So you're just going to take one component of the recipe, essentially, and put that on blast. If you for want of a better word, Rich, what do you reckon?
Well, it's good. It's good to get a bit of insight into what other flavour profiles can come out of them, because I think most brands and even ourselves included, you have we've got quite a wide range of the different flavours. You look at the seasonal range, that's there to keep our spirit character present whilst presenting it and showcasing it with different influences and different ways. So we do have quite a lot of variety that comes there, but even with our products and a wide range, there's meant to be a theme, throughout. And I think having access to single casks of wherever it might have come from is a great way of finding out what else they might be capable of, or what else they can do. And I think in times of hardship, they're incredibly important to distilleries, because they're happy to buy lots of excess casks, parcels of casks that distilleries can't move. And in boom times, distilleries probably aren't quite as excited about sharing those casks, because they want to keep them for themselves, but they couldn't survive those downtimes without an independent bottler around. So I think
also, Andrea, there's going to be casks that are going to age in the warehouse and stuff that don't meet certain criteria. Now, that's not saying that they're a bad whiskey.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Far from it. But they just don't tick the boxes of what the master blender, or the blending team, or the distillery team are looking for, So it's not going to meet their flavour profile per se. So they're not then just going to sit with that until the whiskey no longer becomes a whiskey, or it goes bad, or whatever, Exactly. So it's a good, an independent bottler is a good outlet for them to move those casks on. Do you know what I mean? Without it, I'm not going to say damaging the distillery's reputation, because that's the wrong way of putting it.
No, but it's more like confusing the consumer. Yeah, if you're putting out different things left, right, and centre, then people don't know what your what your sort of run's meant to be like, or your spirit character, or whatever might be shining through. I think, Andrea, it looks like we might have some stability on your end, and as I say that, it looks like you might have slowed down a bit. I'm sure this is as frustrating for all of. Oh, he's just gone. I've had a message saying he might be back. We'll come to it. Andrea, can you hear us? Are we coming through? Not entirely sure there. Yeah. I'll take that as a no for now. We will get him back. No. This, sadly, is not the first time this has happened. We've done 150 different live shows since lockdown began last year, and a good number of them we've had some things. But please sit tight, and I'm sure we'll get him back any moment. I think a lot of people have probably come to see Andrea and listen to what he's got to say. Mick, what was your first? I can remember mine. What was your first independent bottling that you bought?
Oof. That's a good one, Rich. First independent bottling. Right, now I can't remember the name of it. Right,
Okay.
but when I left the service of the Royal Navy back in 2010, some of the guys that I served with, we had a bit of a leaving party, essentially, and it's tradition. You get a present at your leaving party, and that, don't you? And I just not long really got, so probably maybe about a year and a half, got into my whiskey journey at that point. So that was it. It was an independent bottling. It was a single cask, and it came with a wee scroll and everything. On hindsight, it's probably one of those that you should have kept. You know, but for the life of me, so this is a bit of a pointless story, really, because I can't remember the name of it. So it's probably one of the first ones that I remember. Now we're talking, honestly. That's a difficult one, Rich. You have to leave that one with me. I'm going to have to put the thinking cap on. Do you remember yours?
Yeah, I do. So mine was Gordon MacPhail. It was part of the Discovery range. So, you know, sort of closer to their sort of entry level, you know, bottlings that they do. It was a Coolila 13-year-old, which I think they you know, bought a parcel at the 10 years old and then, you know, put it into their other cask for 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. It was some time ago now that I got it. But I have to say, I remember when I bought that bottle, I put that on the shelf next to all the other, you know, whiskies I had, which at the time probably, a lot fewer of them were back there now. But I remember feeling absolutely just so chuffed that I don't want to say progressed, because we've all got our own journeys that we're on, and it's also important that it's individual. But I did feel like I'd sort of stepped into another realm of whiskydom, you know, and of the whiskey universe by branching out into something that was an independent bottling and not just buying a brand that I knew particularly well. And I have to say, I think at the time, most of the whiskies in and out there, and most of the whiskies that I was buying, if not all of them, were still from just, you know, when I was buying things from supermarkets. And I know that another thing you wanted to talk about was you know, the whiskey community, the geeks, the average consumer buying things from supermarkets, and what the industry does to, you know, sort of look after both of those people as much as possible, or cater to them. But I think at the time, so my whiskey purchasing decision-making process was, you know, going to my local supermarket, began with tea, and whichever whiskey had the biggest discount is the one that I would buy, because I didn't know any of them really at the time. So I thought, right, well, the one that I will try will be the one with the biggest discount. So that's how I was working. So then when I got a Gordon and MacPhail bottle, and I, you know, looked into them and saw, you know, how, I don't know how much history they got. It's got to be 100 and something, 100 in the mid-high 100s. I couldn't say now, but five generations of them. It felt very prestigious and very special to me. Something that you can't get from a supermarket. So for me, it was dead chuffed. I just saw John's comment there about, was that a 6-year-old?
Brothers in Red one, yeah. 6-year-old Boone Harlan.
That's a good little number. So I assume, peated. I was going to say, I assume that's peated. I've had, I think I tried for the first time last night. The hokey cokey.
Yes, Aaron. Yes, I think he is.
He might well be. He'll get tired soon and settle down, hopefully, on this side of the camera and the broadcast.
Thinking about it, Rich, I think my first independent bottle would have been from Douglas Lanes, and I think it was an Epicurean.
Oh, okay. Is the Epicurean? That's the Lowland? The
Lowland, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tried that one. I think I've only just recently tried the Gauldrons, the Campbelltown one.
Oh, one of my favorite. Andrea, are you back? Can you hear us?
Oh, that was close. That was the most movement we've had.
Yes.
We've got you.
Sorry, I just reset the Wi-Fi. Hopefully it will be stable.
No worries. Well, thank you so much for persisting. I know that everyone will be very grateful for the fact that you've made it back.
I would have given up by now, in all fairness.
He's not joking either. He probably would have left me here on my own, just sort of talking to no one. Andrea, while we have you, I think hopefully we've got you now for the long run. But could you tell everyone that's with us and Mickey, because I don't think you guys have met before, a little bit about who you are? I described you as the most employed person we've had on so far, because I know you've got, you know, more than 2 or 3 roles and responsibilities around. So perhaps you could, you know, sort of fill us in a little bit about what you do, you know, and what you get up to in whiskey. Oh,
Rich, that'll teach you for asking long questions.
Oh no! Do you know what? As I was thinking that, I thought, get to the end of this sentence quickly so that we can have some action. Yeah, close to it. Andrea, perhaps we can experiment with if you turn off your video, and we'll just have you on audio. That is the voice of God for some time, whoever it is that you look to in the sky. Yeah, Alan. Hello, Alan. Yeah, welcome. Dram Moore's been great. Looking forward to the next outturn. Now, Mickey, you're excited to see Dram Moore being mentioned, then, aren't you?
Yes.
You've got a connection.
So they're good friends of mine, Kenny and Victoria McDonald, husband and wife team, out of just outside of Glasgow, just in Dumbarton. They've both been in the whiskey trade separately and together for a good few years. You know, I'm a member of the Dram Moore Whiskey Club, which we operate out of the Ora Moor at the top of Byers Road in Glasgow. And we always have some great times. But in the last year and a half, they really pushed on and pushed forward with becoming an independent bottler. So Kenny was a whiskey educator, teaches the Whiskey Ambassador course, helps to train bar staff. He was an independent Whiskey Ambassador for Ian MacLeod in Europe. So he'd go around spreading the good gospel for Ian MacLeod. He's done some work for Loch Lomond, and there's numerous other companies that I can't think of the top of my head. But do you know what I mean? Most people, you go around any whiskey shows, you go, oh, do you know Kenny MacDonald? And yeah, 9.5 times out of 10, people will go, oh yeah, Big Kenny, aye, yeah, with his wife, yeah. So they started their independent bottlers. Dram Moore, and do you know what? They've just done their, on the back of their Christmas one. Everything so far is sold out that they've done. It's single cask strength bottlings that they've done, and it's been fantastic, quite frankly. Absolutely really good stuff. So excited to see how their journey, relatively new as it is at the moment, especially with an independent bottling anyway, that pushes on. You know, they've had some great feedback. I've had a lot of their drams, and they've been really, really good. So I'm glad that other people are getting to see them as well. They are quite big in Europe because Kenny's connections and Victoria's connections within distributing within Europe, most of their bottles tend to go there, but we do tend to get a small handful from some bigger retailers and stuff like that in the UK, which is nice. Yeah, you know?
Well, the more bottles we have access to here, the happier I am, I think.
Definitely, Rich.
So we just saw a comment pop up there from Ray, from Raymond Hunter, who's the founder of the Berkshire Whisky Club, my local outfit. And I think just before Christmas or around Christmas, they had Dram Moore come and do a tasting. I was unfortunately unable to join, but I know a couple of good mates of mine, and Ray now as well, were obviously in the club. And had a great time. I've tried a liquid of theirs that my friend Tom brought off the back of that tasting.
Right,
and
Rich, stop.
Stop.
We have
to wait for him. We have to wait for him to settle there. We've been told to wait for the camera to settle down. So, Andrea, who are you? What do you do? Tell us about yourself. Go.
I'll try my best. I do work for Milroys Soho at the moment. Been appointed as order manager for as much as it can have a meaning of. I basically do private client sales. I do sell whiskey for clients around the world, and whenever I can, I just drink it.
Yes.
I've been working with them previously as bar manager for the Dram House, which is the first members club we've ever opened at the Milroy. So with the plan of once we extend in other countries, we might open some more houses. It's a really casual environment. It's all your friends, members club, and they do really well with this now. But we're not giving up. Keeping for when we're about to reopen again once it's done.
It'd be nice to see you in Glasgow. If you're going to open some more locations, Andrea, it'd be great to have one in Glasgow.
Oh, and Andrea, I've just heard from our production team. If you could perhaps for the time being, if we could try without your camera, as much as we want to look upon your face, of course. But if you could turn your camera off, hopefully the audio will become stronger. If your network's not able to keep up with both things, could we try? Hopefully on your screen somewhere will be a stop camera button. And I think just while we're catching up with things, perhaps if we could just switch to audio. This is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing in my ear.
There we go.
Yeah, we can see your face there. So
it's not a problem.
Perfect. So yeah,
I'm really sorry for the issues. It's just my phone is the only thing connected to Wi-Fi, and I think it's more a server thing because all the things are coming up like notification from other programs and stuff. So it's a bit weird.
No, well,
yeah,
I think
we've done loads of these, right? And honestly, things fall over at the time without. You know what I mean? You could be perfectly fine in the run up to the show, and then next thing you know, you're about to go live, and everything just goes, "Whoa, boom!" and falls over me. So don't even stress about it, my man.
Yeah, don't worry about it. And your audio is perfect now as well. So, how did you get into your work? You know, I mean, I think people are quite often interested to hear about how those of us who work in whiskey, manage to do it. So, how did your job at your Milroys begin?
I came over in the UK about 6 years ago, and then I started to work. And then I used to be a regular Milroys. I literally went there to drink on my time off, and I became a really close friend with Eddie. And the thing is, since I was looking after some whiskey bars previously, I would say more like hotel bars or restaurants, but they were having a decent whiskey selection, and I was in charge of it. I started to get into whiskey, and of course, if you're into whiskey, you must be a Milroys. So I started a good friendship with basically, or at least if you're in central London. And I started a friendship with Eddie de Souza, which was my former bar manager. Now he's back in Portugal. And then basically when there was the idea to open up a new site in Spitalfields, I've been kind of called and bashed into like, oh, we're doing this thing. Would you like to get on board? Left my company without even thinking, and just joined Milroys as soon as I could. It was really a company that I wanted to work for. It wasn't for the salary, it wasn't for anything else, it wasn't for the position. I just really wanted to work for Milroys, and here I am, more than a year later, still hanging. I do some other bits and pieces for the companies. I do represent Hidden Spirits whenever I can. I help Andrea with English when mine is a little bit above average than his. I do some tastings for him. I just did a tasting yesterday for London Whisky Club. It was it's still a journey progressing. I won a cocktail competition 2 years ago for Baiju, so I'm working as well now for Cheng International. So one of the prizes at the end of the competition was to become a brand ambassador as well for this company, and I got to go to China. So I went and see a distillery in the Fengzhou distillery in China. I went to see, of course, a lot of bits and pieces, but I'm kind of a little more an expert on this side of the world.
Yeah, I think I'll
do some consultancy, running consultancy for a bar which is about to open. Hello, can you hear me now?
Just about.
Yeah. Just lost you at the end. Talking about Milroys and when you started there, I've heard a little bit about the training that everyone at Milroys goes through. I think, how many whiskies is it that you guys are presented with?
Oh, well, I would say the usual is that you showed up if the earliest could be 10, 12 or noon to start your shift. I would generally see like 3-4 glasses of cask strength whiskey sitting in front of you, which is someone who passes and is like, oh, today we have this, you better try, or this is a cask sample of a cask we just sold, and it's part of the fun. But the average to start with is about 4 or 5. About you finish your shift, you're 20 in probably.
Right. Yeah, that's a good number. You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Mick, I think when we did our training, ours was. Oh, sorry, Andrea.
No. Well, we'll try to keep it down some days, but yeah, you can go up to 10, 15.
Yeah, that sounds like a good day to me. We had our training was Mick. You when we had the North and South team still divided. I think down in the South we went to Milroy Spitalfields for our training, where we were entertained. I think it might have been Eddie that met us. I can't recall now. But we had, I think, 17 different whiskies to go through that day. I don't know what was it like your training, mate?
Yeah.
We didn't do one.
Oh, did you not? Oh, you just worked it out as you've gone along. Well, you've done a very good job. Let me say, it's one of the few compliments I'll give you.
No, I was hired for my superior knowledge, Rich. You see.
Andrea, one of the things that I know you wanted to talk about was about the whiskey community. About the geeks, because obviously you're working in Milroys. I think a large portion of the people who come in will probably be closer to the geek side than the average customer or consumer. I'm sure that there are people at the beginning of their journey coming in too, but I know you wanted to talk a bit about those, those sort of categories and what the industry does to look after them.
Well, yeah, it's like I kind of like to divide it in two, because mostly like all the consumers nowadays that are into whiskey and buy whiskey regularly, or like a vast majority of the people in London Whiskey Club, for example, or like people that they come in Milroys when we used to be open, they kind of have this kind of a geekery approach to the distillate itself, which is pleasant. Like, it's good to see that people are keen on trying different things and tend to explore, like that there's not an entry level for geekery. Like, you can be geeking in so many different ways. And then one thing what geeks they tend to forget, there is your average consumer, which is the person who buys whiskey but doesn't know much about it, but still they pick up a bottle at the supermarket. And sometimes the geeks or the people that are in the industry, they forget about this way bigger market, to be honest, that it is, I would say, way bigger than the smallest communities around there. And these are people that they do appreciate whatever is sold at the supermarket. And people are still questioning why whiskeys are 43% or chill filtered, and why the whiskey doesn't burst out of flavor. It's just because there is a way bigger market for those, and it's still fulfilled with demand. And I think people should keep their mind open to the reason why some distilleries or some independent bottlers, they come out with a blend, or they come out with a very simple whiskey, just because not everybody's looking to have the next Springbank 25, 30 years old. Or it's the same, I guess, for Mackmyra. I mean, it's a fantastic core range that you guys have, if you can call it, have like new stuff coming in. But it's just pleasant to see that a distillery or an independent bottler is trying to hit the full of the whole market, trying to advertise themselves to the whole category of drinkers, just because it's nice to cover everybody. So it's nice to please everybody. Like Hidden Spirits, for example, even though they do, Andrea does 15 bottling a year, which is really tiny. You don't always have your, I don't know, Clanlake 26 years old, or like all Statalas and stuff. Is that you generally get your even 10, 11, 12 years old single malt whiskey that in Italy retails for 40 euros, 50 euros, and it literally sits next to a Talisker 10. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's good to see brands that they try to keep themselves open to everybody, and the geeks, they should remind themselves that the market is way bigger than the small cask strength, unchill filtered and colored whiskey.
Well, I'm getting really into blended malts, and have been for some time, because I'm from independent bottlers and things. So blended malts, you can get some fantastic flavors and some brilliant whiskies, just at the call it, let's call it the sacrifice of not having a name on there, a name that you know and recognise or whatever. But if you find an independent bottler that you like, because I think we all have, or most of us will have a favourite one or two where most of their picks seem to fit in with your flavour profile, the sort of thing that you like. So you can find a good brand like that. But blended malts coming from those guys, so not just single casks. I think blended malts are an awesome route to look at. Like Old Perth, for example, if you like sherries or sherried whiskies, I think it's a great one. Mick, any thoughts from you on what Andrea was just saying there about not all being single casks here?
Yeah, no, not yet. And it's great to have that big variety. Do you know what I mean? Because every artist, as it were, likes to use different colours of different strengths and tones and all that sort of stuff, and that comes in through the whiskey and that as well. So to appeal to a lot of different audiences, you can't just go cask strength single cask every single time, because that's too much for some people. So it's good to bring it down in that as well. And no, I love the fact that there's independent bottlers out there that do cask strength, single cask stuff. Amazing, because it lets you go and explore that. Do you know what I mean? But it's also great that you got guys out there that do like the blended malts. Do you know what I mean? Douglas Lane's. It's probably one of the bigger names out there for that with their remarkable regional malts range. Yeah.
It makes it more accessible, right? So if you think, if you as an independent bottler, you can't just cater just to the geeks, if you will, the people that want cask strength this, undiluted, non-chill filtered, everything. You need to have something in there to bring in.
Because they're a very, very small part of the big whiskey machine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Let's think, only 5% of whiskey sales are single malt whiskey. 95% of it is blend. Do you know what I mean? And then if you're gonna go independent bottler, single cask strength stuff, you're shrinking that 5% right the way down to like 0.00 numbers.
Yeah, well, probably is. It probably is about that. I'll be very interested to see what sort of data might be around for it. Andrea, what about your work then? With sorry.
No, it's like mentioning about the thing of blends. It's good to remind everybody that the whiskey industry, it's at this point that because blend, a massive chunk of the world, and it's a well-known product because of blends. Like you would never reach any customer keep on doing single cask stuff. Like whiskey as a Scotch itself has reached out because of its availability. Like if you're not able to pull out your product and just chuck it out there on a consistent basis, then you're not able to please your customers, because it is going to end up like all these small distilleries now that they're chucking out small batches of 1,000 bottles run, or every single cask they can, and then everybody's trying to buy it and no one can, because I mean that can be okay that can be okay for that could be okay for an agro release when you just do a single cask. But then if you keep on doing it for years, then what's your consistency as a brand? I mean, you should look into try to reach everybody, not to make your product unfindable. Like, so blends have been actually the core of whiskey itself, as we know nowadays, and people shouldn't ditch them, especially because I was having a conversation with my colleague, and you do actually seek perfection into blend, because the blend gives you the harmony of elements. When from a single cask, you never want perfection. It's really hard to find perfection within a single cask. That's why geeks or the community is behind single cask, because they're always behind. They're always seeking for like the new thing. Like this, I tried this, now let's move on. Even if it's not perfect, there's that kind of curiosity that push them to look for. Where actually for blends, which they meant to be consistent, then that's why you have your always go back dram, when I'm gonna buy this because I know what it is, without facing the issue of I need to stash as much as I can. Yes, I mean you need to face it. Like you you can't just buy cases of stuff that you like and hope that you can drink it later on at some point in life, because that's hard. It's better to rely on a product which is constantly out. Like, for example, as you mentioned, the old pack. I just tried the new cask strength sherry and the new 43%. They just rebranded. It's brilliant stuff. Like, it's really well done, and the price point it's just
and done at accessible prices as well. Which, as we were sort of saying, at a price at a point that people can get into it and feel like maybe let's try some of that. An important part of my journey was learning a bit more and becoming more interested or open to single grains. And something that I thought 3 or 4 years ago very strongly was that with blended whiskey, that the presence of grain whiskey in it was more of an album filler, just there to fill that bottle up, but at a lower price, for the producer, and to then sell that on. That was my thought. And I don't know, Andrea, what your thoughts perhaps are on on single grain or on grain whiskey being present. Is it there for people just to be able to make more money out of the blend that they're selling, or does it play a more important part?
I do believe it's actually one of the best ingredients you can use in blends, if used with, of course, ponderation. Because I was actually talking with Sam Simmons when he released Green Isle, which is a blended whiskey, and most of it's basically kind of an homage to the old Green Isle, or the old Green Isla. It was a Scotch whiskey, mostly made of grain whiskey and Islay whiskey, so it's kind of a smoky. He told me that he had to use grain point, because up to light the style.
I missed that last bit, Andrea. Sorry, could you say that again? I think we had the first hiccup in a while. Have we got you still, Andrea? That was the best run we've had so far, Mick.
That was a good run.
I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me fire that same question to you. I'll say, if do you think grain present in a blend is an album filler, or does it serve a higher purpose?
So originally it was an album filler. Do you know what I mean? Grain whiskey was cheap to produce in great numbers. So with blends, the quality of the brand of blend was seen in its ratios. Really, a lower quality blend would be like 85% grain whiskey, 15% single malts. Now that could be from lots of distilleries, and they would be called dressing malts. And then the better the quality of the brand of blend would be lower percentage of grain to a higher percentage of single malts. But still, that could contain, in the tens to the high tens of single malt whiskey. So like a good luxury blend would probably be about 60% grain with 40% single malt whiskey in it. Or malt whiskey in it, should I say. You can't say it's single malt because there's going to be quite a few of them at the end of the day. So it was there as quantity, not necessarily quantity. Quality, should I say. There's quantity, not necessarily quality. Yeah. And that's not just necessarily grain from one distillery either. Do you know what I mean? That's also a blended grain with a blended malt blended together. So it was, probably at the beginning, the cheapest casks from places to put together to make the first blended Scotch, etc. But then people thought, actually, this is a good drink. And then things started to get tightened up. More investment was going into casks. into barley, into water sources, into upkeep of distilleries, to make sure that the product was going to become nicer. And then if you're going to upgrade to like a step up in sophistication, Rich, shall we say? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to your, I don't want to say it, but your back bar on the measure stuff up to the stuff that sits proudly on the back bar that you have to measure out, sort of thing.
Which has its place, certainly has its place.
100%.
If somebody likes it, it's a good whiskey, of course. But I do know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
And so so to a certain degree, yes. Grain. I'll get there in the end. Grain is just there to fill up space. It is an album filler, essentially. But then, as whiskies become more popular over the years, single grains become it's becoming more and more popular. Do you know what I mean? Especially older single grain. You know, anything roughly over about the 21-year mark. Up until then, in my personal opinion, it's still nice, but it's quite light and not got a lot to it. But
isn't that often, though, Mick? Sorry to jump in. That quite often grain whiskey will be aged in casks that are refill casks more often than not. So I don't necessarily have, because I've had some really great grains, some excellent grains that are 15, 10 years old. I've even had stuff that's in the single digits, and because it's been put into some first fill or second fill ex-bourbon, the cask, for example, or some first fill sherries, because it's gone into a let's call it a better quality cask, or not better quality, but a cask that has more to give.
Oh, you're right. It's a better quality cask. You're spot on with what you said.
But most single grains out there, I found, same as you, needs to be 20 plus if it's from a refill cask, which they predominantly are. I'd agree with that. It started off as album filler, and then as people have become sort of more clued up, a bit more educated over the past, I don't know however many years or a decade or two, become more of a more important for balancing and adding a different dynamic to something, rather than you're just lots of malt in there being quite heavy potentially or robust. That a grain can add a softness to it and give it a good balance, which is key. We talk so much, you and I, on the tastings that we do, about balance being important. With Angela, the way that she concocts all of her recipes to try and find balance and flavors within. So I think grain becoming more important with that. Andrea, now that we've got you back, I think there might be a good time if you're okay with it, if I ask Mick. Mick will he's got a question that we always like to ask. So I think what we'll do, just to avoid any more issues with all of us and on the technical side, if I get Mick to ask you this question that we always ask our VIP patrons.
So we'll do it proper. Oh.
Yeah. He loves that bell, Andrea. It's his favourite thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, so that's last orders for the pub for this week. So that brings us on to our ending question for our VIP patron. And while we have got good audio with him, we'll ask the question quite quickly. So, Andrea, this is the ideal whiskey scenario. What's in the glass? Where are you? Who are you with, if anybody at all? Go.
Is he going? No. That was so close. I think. I know he was there. So, Andrea, I don't know if you can hear us or not. Mick,
what we'll do, Rich, I think, is we'll invite Andrea back on another day, because the man does have quite a lot to say, and some of the bits that we got through there was really, really good. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And we can tell that that's going to be a really good one. So, ladies and gentlemen.
There's so much, sorry, Mick, there's so much there to unravel with him. He's got so much knowledge; it's unbelievable. And
you can tell that we snippets that we're getting there.
Yeah, Rich, and he can present it so well as well. He really does. So I'll say thank you everyone who's stuck with us. Thank you very much for your patience. I hope that you did enjoy what we did hear from Andrea. He really is just he's I can't emphasize enough how interesting a person he is. Inside and outside of whiskey, so definitely need to have him back another time. We'll speak to him and work something out. But Mick, what have we got coming up?
Next week we're back to the pub. We don't have another show before next Friday, So it's time to, because we're getting busier and busier as we go. So we've got the fantastic Andrew Smith by day. Well, he'll tell you next week. I'm not going to give too away about it. I'm not going to tell you too much about the man. But he's got quite an interesting day job, as it were, and a really good passion stroke hobby job as well. And with that man there, he'll fill us in a little bit more about what I've been alluding to over the past couple of weeks as well.
Ooh. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to that bit, I must say.
It should be good. Should be good.
We've got one more little tease before we go. In March, we will be announcing our latest seasonal. So we'll tight-lipped until then, but early March we will be revealing
our spring/summer 2021 seasonal release.
Yeah, and there is we're yet to try it. We'll hopefully won't be too long, Mick. But on paper, I think I'm really going to like this because it's not too dissimilar to one of our whiskies that I've very, very, very much liked before. It's going to be unique to it, looking at the cask recipe of it, but I think there's going to be, there's going to be a similarity or two here or there with some of the notes, which I'm very, very excited about, I will say. But that's all that we can say, I'm afraid, to stop the tease there. So, Mick, I'll say thank you very much.
I've just got a quick one, Rich. Ladies and gentlemen out there, if you are a member of a whiskey club, you are the head of a whiskey club, or a big group of friends that would like to do a Mackmyra whiskey tasting, anything like that, please let us know. We do private tastings for clubs, etc. As brand ambassadors, myself or Rich, we can come together. It's up to yourselves. Not a problem for us, really. Before 9 o'clock, Richard, you behave yourself. So yeah, please let us know. I've got one coming up at the end of this month with the Piper Whiskey Club in Glasgow. Obviously, you don't have to be in Glasgow. And I've got another one coming up with the Grail, which is just up in Stirling, up in Doon. That's coming up in March. And there's a few other things going on as well in our private calendar, as well as our public calendar as well, guys. So if you're, like I said, if you're a member of a whiskey club and you want us to do a tasting for you, give us a shout. More than happy to do these things for you.
Great. Cool. Perfect. Well, we'll wrap it there. I'll say, please remember, like and subscribe. It makes a big difference to us. Hopefully you do. And we see you back again next Friday for the next session of the Inn. Again, thank you so much for everyone and any patience you've had with us. Much appreciated. And we hope that Mickey and I managed to sort of tread water in between our time with Andrea well enough for everyone to want to come back another time. So, Mick, thank you very much. Pleasure.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so thank you to Andrea if he is out there listening. Thank you so much for giving us your time and for trying to come back again and again. We really do appreciate it. And last thank you to everyone out there watching. We'll see you again next time. Skål.
Skål.